Everyone involved in the Oak Island universe is that type of person. You guys, I can tell, you're that type of person. You hear a story like this, you latch onto it like a dog, and you're just like, let's go. And yes, it's frustrating. And yes, you want it to be solved tomorrow. And yes, who doesn't want to find a chest of gold? Of course we do. Of course, everyone does. But it doesn't work like that sometimes. These things are hard. And so it's taking what it's taking. And that is, in this case, 10 years.
Right. How does it affect us in changing of the history or getting down to the nitty gritty of the history?
It won't change history. It will explain.
There you go. Perfect. Thank you. That's what I was.
It will explain parts of North American history you've never thought about.
See, I can't. The History Channel could not have come up with a better teaser than we just did right here. So I tell you what, stay tuned, folks, because this is going to be a good one. I can't wait.
This is Robert Clotworthy, the narrator of The Curse of Oak Island. And I have a question for you. Could it be that you are listening to The Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream?
This is a top pocket find, mate, for sure.
Hey everybody, Jeff here with The Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream and JFree 906. And I tell you what, we have 3 top pocket finds for you tonight. I tell you what, we've got 3 expert metal detectorists on the show tonight. And I tell you, you've probably seen these folks before. We have, of course, Mr. Matt Howell up on the top up here, Gypsy Jewels, and Marc Hoover. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.
I tell you what, and then it was funny because I know I had Matt Hoover. You were Howell. Sorry, Matt Howell. You were on with the Beyond Oak Island, and so was Gypsy. But you were on the Lost Cache of Cornwallis, which I thought was an excellent episode. And so we had you on for that, and we took you through all the different stuff. That was a lot of fun. Gypsy, you've been on Beyond Oak Island twice, I believe, right? Two different times, 3 times. Okay. So I know it was Pancho Villa and also the oh boy, you were out with Maddie. I'm trying to think what was the name of the other one?
So there was the last just mentioned, the one with Donna, and the one where we go into Josephine's mine as well.
Oh, yes, that was it. Yeah. And that was so interesting. And Donna was supposed to be here with us tonight, Donna McCauley, but she had something come up in her world that prevented her from being here tonight. So we will try to get Donna back on at another occasion so we can talk with her a little bit. And Mr. Marc Hoover, you were on with Treasures of America and Tim Draper and the crew out in Utah. You were on that show, and I had you guys come on, and that was so much fun. You and the team that you have out there hunting down and that was looking for Spanish mines out in Utah at that time, right?
It was. And what's interesting is we just released episode 4, which Gypsy was on.
Gypsy was in it. Yeah, I know. I loved it.
So she's been in both.
Yeah, she's all over it. And then I come to find out, folks, this was the really cool part about this, because as I was talking and trying to put this show together for everyone, I come to find out that they all know each other. It's like this metal detectorist world where they all know each other.
Well, the truth about it is that I can speak for myself, but the most famous person here of all of us is Marc Hoover.
Oh, really?
He is well connected. You could be in the middle of the Pacific, dive down and flip open a rock, and there's Mark just hanging out, waiting for you to be there.
So the rest of that story is, and thank you for that, Matt, is I like to hang out with all these people because they all need somebody to carry all their equipment, and I volunteer to do that.
I got to find the strongest back.
Yeah, there you go.
Strongest back and the weakest mind.
It's true though. Mark knows everybody in the community, and it was so funny that day he was with you, Jeff. I get this. I can't remember if it was you or Mark. Maybe it was Mark that sent me that text. Or,
it was Mark.
Of the photo. I'm like, where the? He's like, do you recognize this guy?
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, I'd tell you that was so cool because here I had this my trusty Ace Apex that you helped me get, Gypsy. Got that unit, and I had it, and I had this years ago. I had a white Coin Master. I think it was a Coin Master called Coin, and I had that. And I used it quite a bit. I found all horseshoes in the yard. I was digging holes all over the yard and stuff, and trying to go on other people's property, but I wanted to upgrade, and I know this is not a super high level. This is more of like a maybe upper entry level or whatever. But I tell you what, I love this thing. But I got together with Mark, and he's like, well, yeah, I'll take you out, and we'll give you some instruction on that unit. And I tell you what, he did. It was a fantastic day. I found lots of junk, nothing real big, but I tell you what, it was a blast. And I can't thank you enough, Mark, for taking me out.
And so you found some coins as well?
Yeah, I did find a couple coins. Yeah, in his yard. But it was awesome, and and so I'm learning from all three of you, from your adventures, and I can't wait now to meet Gypsy. I'm going to be meeting you in person. I'm so excited about this, and I'm coming out to Texas. I've been talking about this on my show for a while. Once I leave Florida, I'm down in the beautiful Florida right now. And I'm going to be heading to Texas here in about 3 weeks. I'm coming to your way, and I'm going to be joining you at your event. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Sure. I'm so excited about it. It's my first event. This particular one is in Kerrville, Texas, and it's coming up very, very soon, but there's still time just for those of you to sign up. You can go to my website, gypsydigs.com, and go to the event page and purchase your tickets right there, and it'll tell you more about the event there. Marc Hoover, as their club and out of Florida, has donated stuff. I've got sponsors such as Digstock. I've got a lot of different types of sponsors, people that have sent all kinds of goodies for me to use as prizes. Plus, it's sponsored by Garrett Metal Detectors, so they're sending a person down with all kinds of prizes and giveaways, and I'll be giving away metal detectors. I'm giving away some Nocta Macro stuff, some other brands of detectors as well besides Garrett. So it's going to be, the best part is, and what I love about this hobby, and as Matt and Mark can tell you, is the people that we meet and that we have this common thing with each other. Just like Matt and I have a YouTube channel, and we get to share with people all the time about our love for what we do and our passion. And what this hunt does is helps expand that. I've got people ask me all the time, hey, Gypsy, when can I go metal detect with you? And it's hard to be in 100 places at once, of course. Yep. So this is one way I could do that, because unfortunately I wasn't able to go to Digstock this year because we're going to be filming for another TV project I'm working on that week. So as soon as I get through filming, I'm going to be hauling tail to my hunt to get finished, set up, and plant silver coins. So we plant silver coins. There's going to be all kinds of other types of coins in there, like Indian head pennies, buffalo nickels, plus natural finds from this camp has been around since the 50s. But there's also been quite a bit of evidence of old homesteads. There's an old railroad. There's even an old building still standing out there. So there's natural finds, plus seeded finds. So for me, I've never been, I guess because I love the history part of this hobby, as I know Matt and Mark do as well.
Yep.
For me, the seeded hunts are really for people. Um, it's for that getting together and being able to pal around with our friends in the hobby, but also for those new people or newer people to the hobby that aren't able to get out as much and go hunt. They're wanting to learn their metal detector, so it's a great place to get all of you around, surrounded by all these metal detectors, some seasoned, some not. So it's a great learning way to learn as well. Plus, the best part is you will probably walk away with some amazing prizes.
Well, for me, the prize is going to be to meet you in person, and I guess Donna's going to be there too. Donna McCauley, she was saying she's going to be there.
She said she was going to try to make it.
Yeah, I hope so, because that's I seen one of the people jumped up here. John Edwards was asking, could Gypsy, you're going to be planting some stuff. So yes, that's what she's going to be doing. She's going to plant some tokens and coins and whatnot out there for people to find, and it's going to be a blast. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to this thing. And you're right, that learning experience, that's really what, and Mark helped me with that, to take me out and really let me learn about this particular detector that I have, and detectors all around. And how to, because there's so much to it that's not just turn it on. I mean, it can be just turn it on and go, but I mean, there's a lot to it, and the different sounds that they make about the different types of metals and non-ferrous and ferrous and everything that you're coming across. And it's always a little confusing to have like something where you might have a coin and a nail right next to each other, and it really, if you have that detector that can define the two or tell you that both are there, I mean, that's
what a lot of people don't realize, is there is a major learning curve to metal detecting. As Matt and Mark can attest to, is anytime, even an experienced metal detectorist, it's knowing the different nuances of the machine, the technology that you are using, and learning to use that to the best of the ability to get your best outcome of searching for treasure, relics, etc. So there's a lot more to it than, there is such thing as beginner's luck. And I will say this: I've took many people out before, out their very first time metal detecting, handed them a metal detector, set it up for them, and showed them how to swing, and boom, they found gold rings their first time out.
Oh, wow.
Silver half, silver. I'm like, okay. So, but it's not always that way, as we all know. You get out there sometimes and you may search and search and search and may not find anything but trash, etc.
Yep.
And a lot of that is learning as you become seasoned. Like Matt's been doing this a long time, and Mark, and you start learning the different types of areas that you can go and researching and all that stuff that goes into it to help up that percentage.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the really neat thing about watching all three of you actually, and learning from you, from your shows that you do. And I know, Matt, you've got Gone Diggin'. And by the way, folks, the link to all three of their we got Gone Diggin' down below. Everything's in the description below. You can go down there, click on that link. It'll take you right to Gone Diggin'. There's another one there that'll take you to Zero Discrimination for Gypsy's site, and also Mark with Treasures in America and Uncharted
Expedition.
Expedition. Thank you. So they're all there. You can check them out in the link below, or links below. But that's where I do a lot of learning, because of course, when days when you can't get out, I'm watching a video and to see what you guys are doing, because even though you might not be doing it for training, I'm still learning by watching what you're doing. And that's the beauty of it for me. And I think so many people that are just getting into this hobby. One of the things that I mentioned this in the pre-show with you, Gypsy, was that one of the things I went out to the beach, I started going, I'm here in Florida. Why not? You got to detect on the beach, right? So I go out to the beach but before I did, I was watching, you were out on the beach doing some metal detecting, and you talked about something, several things, of course, but you were talking about dragging your basket, or your what's
Your
the actual name? Sand scoop?
sand scoop. Uh-huh.
Sand scoop. You were dragging it behind you. Now, everybody talks about doing the lawn mowing where you go down, you come back, you go down, you come back, and you drag it behind you so you have a reference line of where to hop over and now get the next line. So I thought, oh, that's perfect. So there I am dragging. At the time I had my shovel. This just arrived today. Wah, wah,
Oh,
wah. I ordered it and it just arrived today. So I can't wait to get this thing dirty. Get
well,
out there and get it
when
dirty.
you're in
But
Florida,
yeah, I mean, so
Florida,
we're always learning.
right. And when you're in Florida, like where Mark is,
Mhm.
you've got a beach hunt. When I first got into the hobby 24 years ago, that was where I started. I ended up moving to Galveston, Texas.
Mhm.
And so I learned right off the bat everything I could about beach hunting and surf hunting and water hunting. Um, and I had to learn the hard way and learn what machines work best. I started out with the cheapo Radio Shack in the beginning, and then learned, oh, well, I needed a PI machine and pulse induction and all the different technology. And, but then once I really got into it, boy, I was so hooked. You couldn't get me off the beach.
Yeah, I know. So I tell you what, Matt, we know that you were working on at the time of Beyond Oak Island, which was quite some time back. You were working on the Cache of Cornwallis. Tell us a little bit about what else you got going on right now.
I'm kind of like Gypsy. I'm always working on events. I had my first event last fall. A little smaller, more intimate kind of stuff. I'm working on some education stuff for folks who want to come out and actually like sit down and have a chat, have basically classroom sessions with whatever type of metal detector you have, and then taking that classroom session and then going out into a field or a house site or whatever the site is, and applying what we learn, not only in the classroom but then moving it into the field. So we're working on some stuff like that hopefully will have some quote unquote curriculum. And like I'm not the expert. Like I'm learn as much as you do from the internet, and have some like subject matter experts on folks who beach dig or bottle hunt, or look for Civil War pits or trenches, and doing some of that, and making videos as normal, and growing a spunky little girl all at the same time. So
And
You're a
saving
metal
lives
detectorist.
and fighting fires.
what's that?
Yeah.
And fighting fires.
Oh yeah, well, occasionally in between the normal work schedule, trying to do everything else in the world. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
Life's good. It's busy.
Yeah. Yeah. I love watching your videos. Matter of fact, all of it, every one of you guys, I love watching the videos, because as I said, you learn something, but they're fun. You're having fun. And I was just telling you, Matt, I was just watching the one where you were at there was it was a dump. What'd you call it again? A Civil War dump.
My friend Steve invited me. He called me. I was not in the greatest of moods. He called me and said, Matt, I found a colonial era pit. And
Yes.
pits were in the colonial period. Everybody just dug a hole, threw their trash in it, and then covered it up. Well, this gentleman happened to be a very wealthy man, and he was in local government. And when the government was shut down, as it did, they would have periods of operation where they did their session. He would invite everybody else back to his house, and they would just drink wine for a week. And we found one of the pits that suggests exactly what his story is, because it was 200 broken wine bottles from about 1750. And I was lucky enough with Steve to be able to recover that beautiful colonial period mallet bottle.
That's amazing. That thing is so cool. You were so happy when you found this. And that's what I'm talking about, the joy of watching these, because you were so happy when you found it. How long have you been looking for one like this?
I up until that point, I'd looked for about 6 years for
Wow.
an intact colonial period bottle. And that was the first one. And it's like, if you're a treasure hunter, you see the broken pieces. And for years, I'd held on to little fragments of these bottles. And then to find 200 broken ones, and there in the bottom was this one that had wasn't perfect, but it was flawless to me.
Wow. That's really cool. I mean, and again, like we talked about earlier, yeah, it's great to find, some kind of gold or silver or whatever, or rings or whatever you may find. But things like this right here, that's history. That is so awesome to find something like that. It truly is. And you find those now. How did you come upon? You said a friend of yours already knew of this particular
Yeah,
spot.
he actually had found it in the field, found the pit a day before, and I've gotten really big into searching through Civil War era trash pits, and the old saying of one man's trash is another man's treasure. I think that's what a lot of folks who metal detect, that's really what it is. The discarded broken bits and pieces we find may have been trash of the time, but it's treasure today. And he called me and he bugged me. He was like, "Come on, you got to come. You got to come." And I did. I did want to do that. So, but like somebody asked in the comments about, I'm sure Gypsy and Marc have interesting stories about dangerous things or questionable things that they've places they found themselves in. I tend to urban treasure hunt as much as I can, especially on places that are getting demoed or tore down. And we got permission for a construction site. And the gentleman told me, he said, "You can hunt here, but you can only do it after we leave while there's no machinery working. And you have one day." So in the middle of the night, we were approached by some gentlemen that were more interested in removing the items that we were finding from our possession than us finding them.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
So, some things like that. We've been in some large dumps and things like that, had some significant cave-ins, but it's always part of the adventure.
Right. Yeah. Wow. So Marc, I mean, like you, I was going to call you the grandfather of all the metal detectors, but detectorists out there. But I mean, tell us a little bit about some of the adventures you've been on with all this.
Oh boy, I don't even know where to start. Of course, you had me on for Uncharted Expedition, and that was exploring out in southern Utah. And nothing really too difficult, except it was a fairly long hike, probably 11 miles at a very high elevation. So that was kind of taxing. And then one of the other episodes that hadn't aired yet is we went into some mines that could be a little interesting in terms of like maybe we shouldn't be in this mine. But no, I've been on a lot of different adventures. In fact, I was just writing it down. I think I mentioned this on the last time I was with you. My motto is have adventure, will travel. And I hunted with Matt in his first event that he held, and I really wish that I could go to Gypsy's event, except that I'm going to be somewhere in the Caribbean when she's doing that, and so I won't be able to attend. But I'll be able to see her again a couple of weeks later at the Garrett hunt, which only happens every other year. And from my personal experience of the events that I've gone to, Garrett does an incredible job of putting on an event. And this location will have natural finds. It'll have seated tokens and things like that. And the last I looked, they're up to over $100,000 in prizes already. So, and they're just about sold out. And I think if anybody's listening and wants to go, they're getting ready to close it out pretty quick. But Gypsy's event will be great for everybody who's going to go to that. And then after that, a couple of weeks after that, will be the Garrett hunt. But I was looking at my list. I was actually writing it down when people were talking. So far this year, I've already got 10 locations lined up, not in Florida.
Wow. Wow.
So
you're going to be traveling.
Yeah, well, tomorrow is funny. Gypsy mentioned about being in Florida and being on the beach. So we actually have a timeshare on the beach, and our week is next week. And it just happens to be race week at Daytona. So Sunday will be the Daytona 500, and we'll be over there for that. I don't know if we're going to go to the race or not, but I'll be hunting next week on the beach over there. And then in 2 weeks, I don't even know how I have time to work anymore. I mean, I work a full-time job, but
Mark.
in 2 weeks, Gil and I are leaving to go on a cruise, and then I'll be detecting around the Caribbean on that. And then
rough life, man.
I know, isn't it? Wow, that's.
And then I got to come back, and then we'll go to the Garrett hunt, and then I don't know. I got a bunch of places lined up.
That's awesome. Wow. I saw that, you know what? And I imagine this is probably the way it is for Gypsy and for Matt as well. But when I got together with Mark, when he called me up and said, hey, I'm going to be detecting, here's the address, come down here and meet me. And of course, when I got there, we went in the house, he introduced me to family and everything. We had a great time, got to meet everyone. And then we went outside and we were getting everything ready. And of course, he opens up the back of his vehicle, and from the whole back, he opens up the hatch, the whole back sides all the way to the top is just filled with sand scoops and metal detectors and shovels and just, I mean,
equipment. Yeah.
There must have, how many detectors did you have back in the bag? It's like 5 or something. I don't know.
I think I had 4 or 5, but I got too many detectors. I had like
there's no such thing, Mark. There's no such thing as too many detectors.
Matt,
I need to bring Gail in here so you can tell her that.
All right.
I got too many. But.
I don't know if she's going to listen to me, but.
Oh God.
Oh, it was. He had so many things back there, and he's like, anything you need, you don't have, or what? And I'm like, well, no, I've got this and that, and you know. And he saw the one thing I don't have that's not, you know, really decent equipment is my pinpointer. And so he's like, oh, here, use this one. And he gives me this, you know, nice Garrett one to use. And man, I tell you what, I used that Garrett one, and then I went back to mine, and I'm like, how much are those Garrett ones again? I'm like, ooh, okay, well, you know, I'll be planning on that, saving up for that one. But it was, I mean, having a nice one, it does make all the difference. It truly
the last hunt that I went to for our club, I loaned 2 detectors, 3 diggers, 2 headsets, and 2 shovels. I was just loaning them out because nobody had it. What?
Is that the one in Florida, the one I was at with you?
No, this is we do a monthly club hunt, and there were some new people that came in that didn't have all the stuff they needed, so I just started loaning it. I just lined them up in the car and said, "Hey, what do you need? What do you need?" And they just started.
There's Donna. Donna popped in. She didn't get to make it on, but she's out there in the.
Hey, Donna.
Hey, Donna, how you doing? We're glad. We sure missed you being on tonight, but we understand. So that's good. But yeah, I tell you that really surprised. Well, it did surprise me. And then after I thought about it for a minute, I'm like, yeah, probably no. He probably has that. And you had like it all set up in there, so it's like you carry those all the time in there like that. I mean, it was little shelves and stuff.
It's like a golf club. Not one golf club fits every hole. I don't golf, but I would understand it's like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And Matt's got like unbelievable amount of diving equipment in his garage.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you know, just low. I mean, he should just open his own dive shop.
Maybe one day. You
know, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say that would mean I couldn't go out diving as much as I do.
Yeah, that's true, right? Tell us a little bit about that. You know, diving. We discussed that a little bit when you were on the show. Obviously, when you were on Beyond Oak Island, you were diving in what I would consider treacherous situations, very dangerous because of all the debris and stuff you could get caught up in down there, and branches and whatnot. But I mean, that's a whole new level of metal detecting. and hunting for, anything in diving like that. Take us through that a little bit. I mean, the visibility is terrible and everything else.
Yeah, this time of year is even different. I mean, because I dive in a dry suit right now, so it's like wearing an astronaut suit, to keep the cold out. I got a dive last week. It was 48 degrees for 40 some minutes. Which is cold. But it's a different world. Yeah, it's awesome. It's like the next level of addiction, or like the next level of anything you can take, right? Like if you build cars, or you like to ride motorcycles, you can always go to the next level. And I think that's all it is. I started diving because I love metal detecting on the land, but I was having some trouble on getting people to say yes. I mean, that's that hasn't changed in the last 100 years of,
right.
Or 50 years, people knocking on people's doors, kind of digging your property. Well, no, you can't dig holes in my ground. So I was having some trouble, and I was like, well, there's stuff that leads up to the water. Maybe it's in the water. So I started shallow water detecting. I was up to my neck, like, oh, there's still something right here. And I was like, well, why? It doesn't stop. Like, it does like this magical line where people are like, we'll drop it here, but we're not going to drop it there.
Right.
So then I was like, well, I got to see how to get underwater. So I started going underwater, and then I was like, oh, nobody's ever done this.
Yep.
So that's kind of how the progression is.
Matt, how many dives did you do in 2022?
I had 104 dives.
Wow.
Yeah. So for most recreational folks, they call it the century mark. If they're lucky to get 100 dives in about 5 to 10 years. So 10 dives a year is a lot for most people.
Right.
Wow.
But yeah, I did 104 last year, and the goal is that I don't know that I'll be able to go much more than that, but I'm going to try for 200 dive years.
Wow.
But it's wear and tear. It's on everything. Like, these guys know you clean up your metal detector every time you come back, clean up your shovels, make sure things are sharp, your batteries are charged. And then it's like, oh, hey, make sure all this life support gear that you have isn't full of mud and silt. Wash it all off, or salt water, depends on where you are. But it's amazing. There's nothing cooler in the world.
Wow.
I heard a really good analogy from Steve Zazulik, who's a really well-known dive detectorist up in Canada. And the way he described it, he said, if metal detecting on land was black and white TV, diving in metal detecting is like watching color TV.
Wow.
He said it just changes your whole dynamic in your world in terms of metal detecting. And I think it would be accurate to say that more than 90, maybe 95% of people that metal detect are on land. So you got all this water, and if only 5% are metal detecting, that's where you want to be.
Yeah.
And there's probably a larger, I would say, I remember reading a book years and years ago by Charles Garrett, that I think there was a bigger percentage of treasures in the water than there is on land. And you think about it, with all the treasure ships and all of that stuff, and then hurricane, you name it. I can imagine what's under there.
Well, yeah, we kind of talked a little bit about Jimmy Crossbones, and that's kind of where Mark, you and Matt, were, and Mark wrote this article about Jimmy, and it was really, really good. But that was a gentleman. Tell the story. But I mean, he went out after a hurricane.
Well, actually, it wasn't a hurricane. It was a very interesting set of circumstances. It was two back-to-back northeast storms coming across Florida. And, everybody kind of runs out to the beach after a hurricane.
Right.
And so this was a scenario where people really weren't, I don't think, paying attention. And he was on the beach at the right place at the right time with, almost, I want to say like 15 feet of sand was taken off.
Wow.
And I remember going over to the beach that same year, that's around that same time. Of course, I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. And went over to my timeshare, and I was like, where's all the sand? I mean, you can put your hand up, you're standing on the beach and touch the bottom step of the the seawall. It's like, so we knew that a lot of sand had been taken off, but his was not in the water. His recovery was on the beach, but those coins and those relics and those, everything that he recovered had been covered for over 300 years.
Wow.
But, so he found it on the beach, but there's a group of people that go out under the auspices of Queen's Jewels LLC that go out every year during the summer and dive and look for treasure from the 1715 fleet. And they had 11 galleons that sank off the coast of Florida during a hurricane. But point being is, that's just one area. There's treasure all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And how many gold coins did he find that day? Or
it wasn't one day, it was like over about a 2-week period. And I want to say it was like it's probably more, but I want to say like 13.
His biggest day, they found 12 between him and his partner.
Right.
But I think the total was like 22.
That's right, 22 gold. But overall, it's well over 50 coins total.
Wow.
That's reals and escudos.
Man, that's the real treasure stuff. Like I find cool things, but it's like, I feel like that stuff is stuff I fall in love with.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody would love to find that. But again, it's those history pieces also that are really interesting to find. And then you got people that, quite often will just go out on the beach and they'll find things that other folks have recently lost. Rings, wedding ring, diamond rings, whatever, necklaces, things like that too. And it's one of those kind of things where and if it's in the sand, now that's the way Florida is, right? If you find it on the beach in the sand, it's yours. If you find it in the water, now that changes things a little bit, right? So,
well, yeah, I mean, if it's new, new, like a watch or jewelry or something like that, nobody's going to do anything. I mean, you can just recover that. But if it's real treasure and it's in the water, there are rules and laws, and they take it very seriously. And in Florida owns 20% of everything recovered in the water from those treasures.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. And I just recently had the opportunity to go out with there's a couple of other people that you guys might know. It's the real treasure hunters. That was Mike Gattuso, Mike Gattuso and Captain Joe Ziga. And they were on Beyond Oak Island also, and they were looking at Anclote River Park. They were out with Maddie Blake. I think Marty Lagina was there, and they were digging in the sand. They got a hold of me because they came on the show. I had them on the podcast. And so when I was down here in Florida, they got a hold of me and said, hey, you want to come down? We're going back to Anclote Park and we're going to do some work. I did not bring my detector with me that day. I wish I would have. But we went back to Anclote Park and I did some video with, hey, there she is. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hi, Eddie.
You remember Mark?
Hunter.
This is
Hi, Eddie.
Gypsy.
Hi.
And Mr. Jeff.
Mr. Jeff is back.
Yeah.
How did Mr. Jeff get back?
I don't know.
He's
Are you
all
gonna be
over
a treasure
the
hunter
place.
one day?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
What are we gonna find?
I don't know.
That's right. That's the fun part about being a treasure hunter, right?
You never know.
That's right.
That's right.
That's
That's
right.
awesome.
And maybe we'll go scuba diving.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
I'm creating my own monster.
Yeah, your little treasure hunter. She's gonna.
That's right.
Yep.
Well,
That's awesome.
Do you have to go night night, right?
Yep.
Yep. Can you say night night to everybody?
Night
I
night.
know.
All right, you silly girl.
Yeah.
Oh. You catch us.
But yes, I had the opportunity to go out with them and do a little bit of filming for them, and I put together a couple of videos. But then Captain Joe got a hold of me again, and he was going out to Bailey's Bluff, and doing some metal detecting out on the bluff. He had an opportunity. It's a little peninsula that sticks out there, and there's really high dollar houses all around. But we actually went out to a couple of people's private property and metal detected. We didn't really find it. The weather was actually really, really bad. It was a little cool, and it was really windy and a little drizzly rain and whatnot. But I tell you what, that didn't stop me. I was I was going anyway. I mean, you get the chance to go, you're not going to pass that up, right?
No,
But
the fever. Once you get the fever, there's no stopping that. Speaking
oh, I know.
of Captain Joe, I spoke with him and his wife a few weeks ago, and he's coming to my hunt as
Yep.
well. So be a chance to meet him in person. And I
Yeah.
spoke with Mike too. Great guy.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed talking to him.
Yeah.
We're gonna work on a project together.
See there you go. See, that's what I'm talking about. It's so neat to find folks like yourselves, and that's what I was kind of referencing earlier, was the fact that it's like a community. All of the metal detectorists seem to know each other and be able to work together at different times. It's not one of those. Now they might have that honey hole that they might not want to share with everyone else, but it's a community of people that are willing to help, willing to get together with you and show you stuff. And just and Mark, you had told me about the guys at Spanish Main Antiques, and so I thought, okay, I've got to go over and meet them. So I did. I drove to St. Augustine, and I met the guys there, and I talked to all three of them at different times because there was customers coming in the store. So I would get back out of the way, let them handle their customers and things in there. What a place that was, like its own museum, and it's all of its own. And so, but I went in there and I got a chance to talk to all three of them. And again, they're guys who dive. They found all kinds of interesting things. Mark, Matt and Gypsy, have you ever met the guys over there? I've forgotten their names now. I'm sorry, Mark, but
I've met them when I came to Mark's local Florida hunt this last summer, and great guys. Got to see some of their amazing stuff there at the hunt, and enjoyed.
What you have is Daryl Miklos was
Yeah,
on the reality show Cooper's Treasure.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yep.
And then Mark Anthony actually owns Spanish Main Antiques, the store. And then David White runs the metal detecting division of the store,
right,
called Ancient City Detectors. But all three of them are diving on a site in international waters off the coast of the Bahamas.
Wow.
And it's called Site 212. And the reason it's Site 212 is because they don't want to identify which nationality or which nation the ship came from.
Right.
And so, there's just too much consternation when you start, well, this belongs to us, or this is our ship, or whatever, but it's in international waters. So they're legally diving and they're doing everything above board. They just decided they're not going to identify the wreck. They're just going to call it Site 212. Yep. And they're doing extremely well there with the stuff they're pulling up.
Yeah, I saw some of the stuff they had there, and I remember that because you go back and it would say, like you'd look at a bunch of coins or artifacts, some ancient artifacts and bottles and different things that they had, and it would say from Site 212. I remember seeing that little tags on things like that, and you can go in there and you can buy an 8 real that's been got a nice little thing around it to hang around your neck if you've got that kind of money. But I mean, it was so cool to be able to meet the guys, and all three of them said, we'd love to come on the show. So at some point, I'm going to have them on, probably individually, because they have so much to talk about. Going all the history that they have hunting and whatnot. They have so much to talk about. It's probably going to be better to have them on individually. So, but yeah, really cool guys, and I can't thank you enough for telling me to go out there. Actually, Mark called them. I guess when I walked in the door, I parked over there, and then I walked in the door. Mark was actually on the phone with Mark Anthony, I think, probably one of the guys. You were talking to him on the phone, and so I walked in the door, and they're like, they looked at me, and he said, "Are you Jeff Freeman?" And I went, "Yeah." He said, "You're not allowed to come in here." And I was like, "What?" It's like, no, yeah, we were told, no, you got to go. And I'm like, really? I was buying into it, of course. And they were great guys. It was a lot of fun.
They are a lot of fun to hang out with.
So Gypsy, have you dove yet to metal detect yet?
I mainly have done shallow diving. I'm not diver certified. I have what they call it's kind of a hookah system. It's a Nemo, and they also make a Nomad. And my next project is to get the Nomad and go a little deeper. But I've never been diver certified, so I would love to do it. It's a whole new world under there. Like I said, I've done tons of surf hunting and a lot of shallow water hunting, like in the rivers. When I lived in around Austin area, New Brunswick, I used to go to the Guadalupe and metal detect a lot of those, the shallow parts, but also dive down and do some of the little traps where things get caught in there with my Nemo and some shallow diving. It's totally different for sure, and very dangerous as well, as I know Matt can attest to, especially the places he dives in. So when diving alone, it's not the safest to do. So once I have a buddy system, if I had someone like Matt to come along with me or something like that, I think I would, definitely look into getting certified to do that, because that opens up a whole new world, as they talked about a while ago.
Right. And this is some of the things that I'm going to show a picture here. This is where Matt likes to go treasure hunting, in a place like that right there.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's my favorite. Well, you're always welcome to come hang out with me. When we have some places that not only are we looking for man-made items, we're also looking for natural occurring things like fossils.
Right. I'm a big fossil and bottle and if some of you watch my fossil videos, growing up in Texas and West Texas, that's all I used to find is all kinds of fossils. So what I have not done, Matt, there is a place I just went to. I've got a video out. If you get a chance to go check it out. I went to a local creek where we found ancient shark's teeth, but not the size that you're able to find in the area where you go. But
you're finding like Cretaceous period stuff, right?
Yes, you got to check it out if you get a chance to check out my video.
Yeah, I definitely will. I got to go hang out with my buddy in Alabama and Brandon and search.
I love Brandon.
Search one of his creeks. He's like, yeah, let's go find some fossils. I'm like, fossils in Alabama, I'm in. And it's a different world. I mean, like, you find a tooth that's this big that you're like, oh, that's not a giant one, but for that period creature, it was monstrous, Right. I love it. All that kind of anything different. It's all about the adventure. Like Mark said, have adventure will travel. I mean,
100%.
I think that's probably what we all have the most in common. It's not really what we find, it's the journey to get there.
So true. And if you ever come to Texas, I'd be glad to take you to some of those areas. And I think Donna's in chat. She says something there. I can't read it. I don't have.
It says I'll hold the hold. I'll hold the Gypsy. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe I'll hold the hose. She'll hold the hose for you when you're down. Oh, that's what it was.
So we're near where Donna lives. There's some really cool fossil parks actually you can go to. So come on down to Texas and I'll take you to some of those little spots, Matt.
I'd love to. That'd be fantastic.
There's a question right there. Any snake or alligator scares when you're in the water like that?
So, and we, it's probably more Florida related, but, it's interesting. We, almost every freshwater lake or river, stream, whatever in Florida probably has an alligator in it. Not all of them, but most of them do.
Mm.
And unless a gator has been fed, generally they're afraid of you, more afraid of you than you. And it's hard to believe, but they are. And there's over 1.5 million gators now. They estimate in Florida now.
Wow.
So you can go into just about any river or lake. So you do have to be careful. But, actually, here, I'm going to give you a stat. And I don't know if I gave you this stat the last time, but people are always talking about, sharks and alligators and bears and stuff. And the statistic that I use is that more people are killed every year on a golf course than by bears, alligators, and sharks combined.
Wow.
And that's because between Orlando and Tampa, it's the lightning capital of the United States. You can be standing on a golf course and get struck by lightning and killed and not even know that it was even dangerous.
Yep.
But there's no real issue with alligators unless you're going into an area that is infested, and generally most people around here know which ones are.
I don't know, but I'm going to tend to respectfully disagree. I don't want to go down to Texas and play with any of Gypsy's rattlesnakes down there. And we were on the Cooper, and my buddy Brad popped up eye to eye with about a 12-foot gator in October, and he was not a happy fella.
Where was he at?
He was on the bank. He was
No. I mean, which state?
Oh, South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, that scared me. But the rattlesnakes thing, no thanks.
Yeah.
Just last week, I was out detecting here in East Texas with a friend, and I mean, she was back. I didn't know she'd went back to my vehicle. She brought her snake boots, and I hollered over. I just saw. I looked down, and they're just now starting to come out in Texas because it's starting to warm up, even though it's a little cool today. But by next week, it's supposed to be 80 degrees, and I looked over, and there's a water moccasin. So you got rattlesnake, water moccasin, and there's coral snakes, a lot of poisonous snakes in Texas. I've encountered them all out metal detecting in Texas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I got my snake boots, so I'll be bringing them with me.
Ready. Well, where we're going to be, Jeff, there, yes, 100% chance of snakes at this property.
Good thing I got the boots.
Yeah,
come on, man. You can come down there with
a 90% chance of rain. It's a 100% chance of snakes.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so I definitely got the boots. I'll be wearing them. I'll be bringing them with me anyway when I come over there. Oh my gosh,
people
that's
ask
crazy.
me all the time because I wear boots, when I'm out metal detecting, and they don't realize, well, half the point is because I live in Texas and I'm used to that. But when I was out in Utah, where Mark and our friends from Expedition Unknown, we were filming, I saw one of the biggest rattlesnakes I think I've ever seen in my life when we were filming. So it's, I don't know. that was massive. It was so long and big. That's crazy.
That was a neat to see you. It was so cool to see you show up on that, and I got a chance to meet. If you said Expedition Unknown, were you talking about the Treasures in America guys, Tim Draper and
Uncharted Expedition.
Uncharted Expedition. I always forget that part of it. I always remember Treasures in America. But yeah, so and those guys were going down in, what's the guy that does the rappelling? What's his name again?
That's Sean.
Sean, yes. And he's going down in some of these mine shafts. I guess they would be a mine shaft or holes in the ground, let's call it. And he's rappelling down into these. And that one that he went down into, talk about dangerous. I mean, he was crawling on. Some of it had been collapsed. He was finding timbers down there that used to hold it up that have been somewhat collapsed. He's going down in there anyway. I mean, he's crawling around down in this to see where it would go and how far back he could get to try to figure out if that's one of the mines that they happen to be looking for. But again, man, I mean, you think about the animals that might be in those as well, snakes or anything else that might be in there. I mean,
totally.
Yeah. Go ahead, Gyps.
No, I was just going to say, when we were filming for that episode I was in, and Sean would climb down in one of those little ravines, and I'm sitting there like, hey, you need a flashlight? Hey, you need the metal detector? Ready to hand it down. I'm like, I'm not going down there. I just saw a massive snake. I know there's probably one in there, because that's where they like to hide, in the heat of the day. It was so hot when we were filming. We got a little dehydrated as well. So that's definitely one of the dangers. I think with Matt, probably one of the biggest dangers would be, of course, malfunction of maybe your tank or hose, or your air tank, or getting trapped underneath. That would be
It's we have to take care of our gear pretty
exactly.
thoroughly. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say that I haven't free flowed a reg and had to come up, or the biggest thing that worries me the most is we dive in some pretty significant currents from time to time, and those currents will push you into something that and absolutely pin you up against it if you're not paying attention. Or a lot of people, like your snake boots, we wear helmets, and they're like, why do you wear helmets? Because we're like
Right.
blindly driving our heads into logs and
Yeah.
trees. Or
I can't even imagine. And that visibility you have, seeing that visibility, that's probably the thing that scares me the most, not being able to see exactly where I'm going. That would,
yeah, it's wild. I have a couple places I really enjoy. On my last dive, I was out, and I was only in about 7.5 foot of water, and we put our dive flags up and all that stuff, but I heard a boat coming, and you can hear boats from a long distance. And I heard it come. My buddy Brad was on the bank, like, hey, you need to move over, but I'm only at 7 feet of water. Depending on how fast this guy's going, there's a prop, a couple feet above my head.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, I was going to ask you, when you're in that low vis water in the river and you're using your detector, are you actually able at all to see the target, or are you just barely getting, what are you seeing when I know you're getting a signal, but what are you actually seeing?
So sometimes it's pure what we call braille diving. I mean, like, you will get a signal, and I use Garrett pinpointer, manufacturer recommended waterproof to 20 feet.
Oh, 20 feet.
Matt Howell endorsed to 65 feet. So I have a carrot that I use, the slang term for the Garrett pinpointer, that I love. It's my diving go-to, and that thing has been a beast at 65 feet. Problem is the pressure turns the button on.
oh no.
So, which is perfectly fine. But when we're down there, so it's sweep the machine, get a target, pull the pinpointer out, and then see if you can pinpoint it pretty quickly, and then reach. And sometimes I've done it where I know I had the target in my hand, and I just dumped the rocks and everything I have in my bag. So, I mean, I did a video. I was surprised at what I'm like. It's like finding it twice.
Yeah.
Find it the first time on the bottom, and then when you come back out, you're like, ooh, what's in my magic Christmas pouch? Like, pull it out, and you're like, oh, I found a coin, or I found this. Like, other times you can see pretty well, and I have some videos of actually being able to see things recovered on the bottom, which is cool. But it's so unrelatable to most people, because most people don't like it. They just don't like take a flashlight, take a kind of dim flashlight, turn off all the lights in your house, and then go walking around stumbling into things.
Right.
So
yeah, the danger factor though too. That's what bothers me. So Matt, I see behind you, you have quite the collection going on there. Are these all things that you found metal detecting, or looking for bottles and things like that? That's quite a
So some of it is a little bit of collection, like these bottles right here. These are poison bottles from about the turn of the 1900s. I dug a couple of those, but a lot of those bottles I actually purchased. I find them to be really interesting, and it's like from the time period when Americans made things to last. But pretty much everything else, whether it's this some button trays up here, and then the case bottles and coins and things like that. And then I started realizing that, you know, over the years, like I go on pretty cool adventures. So I started adding like all of the photographs on the wall. That's a cool Beyond Oak Island plaque my buddy made me, and you know, like different cool things that are like sentimental. Like this is my room, you know,
man cave in there. Yeah.
I've been in Matt's museum.
Oh, okay.
And it's pretty cool. And he's got some really cool stuff in there. So it's definitely worth going to see what
do you have one of your own, Mark? I mean, do you have your own museum?
Oh, well, mine's scattered all over the place. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, and the older I get, the more I forget where everything is. So I have to go look for it. You know, so.
How about you, Gypsy? You got a collection area of your museum stuff?
I'm not in my relic room right now, but I just finished recently this year, early this last year, 2022. I relocated to East Texas, and I built a relic room. And I just finished building it, so I'm just started unpacking my relic room. I mean, unpacking my boxes. I'm like
relics.
I'm like Matt. I love bottle digging. I love dump digging. What a lot of people don't know about us metal detectorists, or if that's what you want to call us, treasure hunters, you know, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Truthfully, in all essence, everyone out there is a treasure hunter of sorts. They're always hunting for a bargain. That's a treasure in its own. You know, they go to Goodwills or garage sales, estate sales, and find stuff that they collect. So that's their treasure. And like Matt said earlier, and you know, the old adage of one man's trash is another man's treasure. For me, like Matt, and I'm sure Mark's dug in some dumps as well. In old dumps, you'll be surprised what some of these bottles can be worth, or even marbles for that matter. We find all kinds of things that could be considered a collector's item or a treasure to someone that collects those things. And sometimes those things are highly valuable. So I've got loads of bottles that I've dug over the years. And when I was a kid, that's what I used to do. My dad would take me, before I ever even knew metal detectors existed, he would take me to old junkyards, and I would be finding all kinds of stuff at the junkyard, at the dump. And while he was picking out like electronic pieces to build a TV or a computer or something of that nature, so and fix electronics. So a different kind of treasure hunt. But yeah, I'm not quite finished with my relic room. I still have a lot to unpack. But unfortunately, you know, right now I'm focusing on my hunt, getting ready for that. So I'm using my relic room to start sorting through all that, and, you know, number all the prizes and etc. Right now. And then after the hunt, hopefully I'll get to focus more on, you know, displaying on my mini museum.
And I know that you'll probably do a YouTube video on it as you're doing it. Once it's all set up, I can't wait to see that, because I got a feeling that's what you're going to do, is show us all. And I want to see it. I'd like to, you know, experience that too. So I have to ask you, each of you, and I know this is going to be a tough question. I know it because of the vast area of things that you search for, like bottles and whatnot, and all the different things. I have to ask you, and I'll start with you, Gypsy. What is your favorite find? The one thing, if you can pick one, I know it'd probably be hard. What's the one or two of your favorite things that you've found?
Well, one of my favorite finds, I'm like Matt and Mark when it comes to history, anything that connects to history. So one of my favorite things, an Eagle Officer belt buckle I found in Texas. And that was one of my favorite finds that I found early on when I first started well, I wouldn't say early on, but, you know, mid 24 years. So maybe 10 years into the hobby. Um, so anything pertaining, I know where Matt lives, he gets to find a lot of that Civil War type stuff. And we've got a lot of Civil War here in Texas. And then I'm not far now from the Louisiana border. So I get to haul over there and get to detect with Jace Robertson sometimes and some of that group as well. But for me, that's probably one of my favorite relic finds. And as for favorite jewelry find, beach find, men's platinum wedding band with 7 diamonds in it. That was sweet.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Wow, that's really cool. Man, that is. Matt, what about you? What's your like your favorite ones?
I mean, clearly the ones I look back with are the ones I found with other folks. Those will always hold the most fondness for me. It's funny, like, I guess I kind of give a little backstory about me. I started doing YouTube and videos is because I hope to be one day the age of Mark where I can't remember what I did one day. So if I make it that long, I want to be able to have like somebody sit me in a recliner in a nursing home while I'm drooling on myself and play my own YouTube videos. Maybe that's self-absorbed, but that's the idea.
It's going to be a while before I end up there, man.
I know. I'm not going to say it's not going to be. It could be 15 minutes for me. I don't know. But probably one of my favorite finds is just the magnitude of the find for me was my first onion bottle I found. So for folks who are in the chat are not familiar with an onion bottle, it's a free-formed blown bottle. It meant that somebody took a big puff of air and a ball of glass and blew it up into a shape, and then they tied a little lip on it and broke it off the stem, and they filled it up with wine and shipped it from England over to the colonies. The first bottle that I found, like I said, it took me a good 4 years of searching and some trials and some hardship to find that and to find one on my own. And I remember being on the boat, just like coming up, in this dark water, just reaching down. I felt a bump on my metal detector and I reached over thinking I was going to pick up a rock, and I rolled over and there was a bottle in my arm.
Wow.
And I was just like screaming underwater. And, I've picked up broken ones, all the parts and pieces, one's missing necks and all this stuff. And I got to the top and I was just like,
It's got broken.
Yeah, like a maniac. I mean, people on the river probably thought I think it was like a Tuesday in November. I was freezing cold by myself and just yelling and screaming. I found one.
Wow, that's awesome.
So,
what about Mark? What do you think? You've been at it a while. What do you think?
I found some wheat pennies.
That's not true.
Somebody just posted in the chat that Nicola White found an awesome onion bottle in the Thames in England. Mm-hmm. She's a really well-known mudlarker over in England, and so apparently she found an onion bottle over there. I don't know that I could say that I found anything like Jimmy Crossbones or like what Matt's found, like a white whale, but the things that I find, I like the stories behind them. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you an example. I was hunting at an old gold mining ghost town in Idaho. And the story goes that the entire town burned down in 1935. And at one time, there were 5,000 people there, all looking for gold, in the river and, mining for it and all. And so when the fire was so hot that all the glass was either broken or melted. So the chances of finding a complete bottle were extremely remote. And believe it or not, I found a bottle with my metal detector, and I'm going to show it to you.
Wow. Oh, because it had the top still on it.
The top is still on it.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's got the little, the little top on there. So I found the bottle, and it was under the dirt, and the reason it was still complete was because it was under the dirt, and everything else was melted or broken. And we did the research on it, and it says Edward Panade of Paris. And I'm thinking, some guy was out in the middle of, and he's buying perfume for his girlfriend out, whatever. But my wife did the research, and she found a poster from 1900 with this bottle on it.
Wow.
And the poster shows a barber over, putting hair tonic on a guy's hair. And so I did all the research. So Panade started perfume back in Paris in the early 1800s. And by the 1900, the turn of the century, he was world famous. So this poster was from an exhibition where he was displaying all of his stuff. And what's interesting about it is if you go into Walmart today, you can buy Edward Panade hair tonic.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow,
it's in there. And you go look it up on, Google it, and you'll see it in Walmart. But anyway, that's kind of an interesting, cool find. And then probably probably the most unique find that I've ever found is, and I didn't know what it was when I found it. I pulled it out of my pouch, and somebody said, "Do you have any idea what you have?" And I said, "No." It's 2 bullets that have been like this.
You showed that to me.
Are they?
Yeah. So anyway,
Civil War bullets?
They're actually not Civil War. They're post Civil War, but they're older, probably early 1900 bullets. But they're not Civil War. But it's still kind of cool.
Yeah.
They hit each other. That's
Right.
I mean, how 1 million in a one shot, 2 million in a one shot, and you found the evidence of that.
And what was weird about it was, it was not in a gun range or anything. It was just in the middle of a field.
Somebody was dueling out in the middle of a field.
Wow.
Suddenly the difference is like real gentlemen.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't know what it was. And somebody looked at it and said, "Do you realize what this is?" And I said, "No." And they showed me, and then I showed you, Jeff. But
yeah,
it was 2 bullets.
Yeah, that was amazing. But see, that's that kind of thing right there. See, and that's what the fun is, folks, is finding something like that. I mean, I can't wait. I know I went out with you, Mark. You took me out to that spot where it was an old lumber yard or lumber mill that had burned down at some, or did that burn down, I guess, or I don't know.
It shut down because what happens is when the lumber mills, when they set up in a location, once they clear the trees in that general area, they'll move to a different location. And that lumber mill was there for about 20 or 25 years, and then it shut down in the early 1930s. And then and we didn't actually get to see what I wanted to show you, which were the mounds of where they came in and bulldozed everything into those big mounds. And for everybody else, we were like tromping around in some woods. And it's a pretty sizable area. So, it's where I'm going to retire and spend all my time metal detecting. So if I don't come out of the woods, you'll know what happened.
Yeah, I was finding these metal bars. They were like broken pieces, but some of them were big, some of them were short, but they were metal bars that were probably about 2.5, maybe 2 inches wide, and about they were thick metal bars. And of course, I was getting a really good hit on them on the metal detector because you're hitting so much metal. But I mean, and I was going down about, I don't know, 5 to 6, 7 inches and coming up with these big metal bars. And I'm like, what in the world? You try to start piecing together what was taking place, I found several of them, and, we just leaned them up against the trees there. I took a couple pictures, but then there was that one leaf spring. I mean, it was the heavy duty piece of broken leaf spring that I had ever seen. And then the spikes, miniature railroad spikes.
Well, and just a couple of anecdotal things about that was the little spikes was kind of interesting because those were the smallest railroad spikes that I have found out there. And I think you and I found like 2 or 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Of the little ones.
Yep.
And I'm pretty convinced that they had a narrow gauge railroad in that little area. Now they had the large regular railroad with the ties and the big and everything, but those little spikes are indicative of a little narrow gauge railroad. They were probably moving stuff around on a narrow gauge track. And then the other thing I was going to tell everybody else on here is when we first went out there a couple of years ago, my brother-in-law found a 13-foot long, 3-foot wide saw blade from the mill itself.
Oh.
You know, and so if you think about how big that is, and you know that he found that as laying out in the woods, how massive that mill was, and then I showed you the pictures of the wood stacked up 30 feet high where they milled it and then put the lumber up there.
Yeah. I know that the dream for most people when you're metal detecting is to be able to get to that place that there was probably some history, that you find that no one else has been there. No one else has metal detected this spot. And so, when you can find that, you're the first one to go out there and work that area. I mean, for me, that's like the big dream, because you go to the beach, people have been combing the beach all the time. And I tell you what, after going out there to the beach, I'll say this too real quick. I've shown some people some pictures of this. I don't think I ever want to go barefoot at a beach ever again. Ever. Because of the things that I found under the sand that were only, yay far down, nails. And there was this one piece it was about 4 inches long, and it looked like a nail on the bottom. The top half of it, probably about 1.5 inches, was like a needle. I mean, it was a sharp, pointed thing, rusty piece of metal, and it looked like a dart. Imagine like a metal dart for throwing darts, and it was the barrel and the point, but it wasn't a dart. But this thing was 6 inches, not even 6 inches under the sand. And there's people's footprints all around. I'm like, I'm never going barefoot on the beach ever again after finding some of that stuff. But all right, one last question around, and then we'll call it. And this is going to be the dream find. What would be the thing that you think would be the dream find? Tom asked this question in there. You think about out there metal detecting, and I know this is tough because there's so many different things that you like. Gypsy, we'll start with you again. What do you think about what would you really like to find when you were metal detecting, and you thinking? For me, I'm thinking I want a gold or silver coin on the beach. That's my dream find. But what about you?
I think for most metal detectorists that I've ever met, their big white whale is gold coin or a cache of gold coins or a cache of gold and silver coins. I think that's every detectorist or everybody's dream. I mean, I think, us as kids, you think of Treasure Island and all these movies and Goonies and all of that puts those little ideas in our head. So I think that's probably one thing. I know when I lived in Galveston, I was constantly like where Mark lives, and where you're at in Florida right now. I was fascinated by the 1900 storm there in Galveston. But for me, it was knowing where all those old ships were, those old shipwrecks. So like Jimmy Crossbones, finding those coins, and something like that would definitely be my dream find. And one more thing I'll say, and then I'll shut up before. I actually just started. I'm going to give a little shout out to a friend of mine right now that I'm going to be working with on some big treasure projects. She's actually, I'm bringing a whole different spin to treasure hunting. She's actually a world-known psychic, and she does map dowsing. And if any of you are familiar with dowsing, I've done dowsing myself and have dowsing rods, but she does dowsing, and she's been very successful, and she'll be a guest soon, actually next week on my podcast, Treasure Vortex. So y'all be sure and tune in with her and our Monday night 7 p.m. East Central, 8 p.m. Eastern on the Treasure Vortex. And her name is Jeanette Matista. And you can look her up. She's worked with the FBI, the CIA. Her father taught her and passed on map dowsing. She's found everything from treasures from the mafia.
Wow.
You name it. So we're teaming up and going to be doing some big things together. And I just wanted to give her a shout out. I know she was going to try to tune in tonight.
All right.
So anyway,
That's fantastic. You said 8. What day was it?
So Monday night,
Okay.
every night, me and my co-host Amanda Digger DeGaz, we have a podcast called The Treasure Vortex, and it's Monday nights at 7 p.m.
Central and 8 Eastern.
7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. And Mark was on there last week. You can go back and listen to our archives. Marc Hoover was on there last week, along with some of the other members, Timothy. Matt, we need to have you on as a guest soon as well. And also the rest of the Uncharted Expedition team was on there last week, and then Timothy a while back. So y'all be sure and check those archives out.
All right. Fantastic.
Yeah, I'd
Matt,
love to check that out.
Huh?
So yeah, I'd love to be a part of it, and it's so hard to keep up with everything. I have to go.
It is. There's too much out there. I know.
It's so much.
You have to call Matt's agent to get him on.
That's going to be his daughter before too long. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm going to be a footnote in Adeline's treasure story, I think. But and I don't know, if I could find one thing. I've been pretty lucky, I would say luck more than success in my hunting career. I've got to experience a lot of cool things that I think that a lot of people dream about. I was lucky enough to recover a gold coin. I found an undug when I by accident, without even knowing, I found an unknown, very small, probably 2 or 3 day Civil War camp that no one knew about. I walked into a relic shop. I was like, look at all these things I found. And the guy was just like fell on the floor. I think for me, I probably will always chase that item that is ideable to one person, but if I was going to go big, I mean, I would love to find a shipwreck that no one knows about, whether that's modern, I think it's that chance to tell a bigger story other than yourself. And I think that would probably be it. Maybe a camp or that train station robbery or the lost Confederate gold or the Beale treasure, but
yeah, the Beale treasure would be good. KGC too, the Knights of the Golden Circle stuff.
Yeah.
That would be great too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that would be cool, but I just don't know. Like, oh, it's so hard to think about.
Today's the day. It's the next swing of that metal detector, that's it.
Okay.
Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, we get that question all the time.
Yep.
And
I had to ask it. I had to ask it.
Well, I think about it a lot. And of course, since we're always looking and we're always finding stuff that you never know what it's going to be. But like Gypsy said, gold coins, silver bars, whatever it is, I think we would all just be delighted, just crazy. But I decided that because I'm originally from Texas and I love going out west, that I would love to find a sheriff's or a lawman's badge.
Wow.
If I could find one of those, that would be my dream find.
That would be cool. And that kind of goes like with what Matt was saying about something individual that an individual, a person, particular person. I'm sorry, Gypsy, what'd you say?
I was just saying a Texas Ranger badge would be.
Oh, that would be cool.
Well, that would be like the best of the best of the best, right?
Yep. That's very cool. Yeah. I like that. That's the real, and you know what? In some ways, I mean, sure, you know, it's you find that a couple of gold coins, that's awesome, and they're worth a lot of money. But that right there has more significance if you think about it in the long run. I mean, something like that. That's really cool. I like that. I like that a lot. Wow. Good stuff. Man, I tell you what, you guys have been fantastic. I really so appreciate all of you coming on the show tonight. So we talked a little bit about, don't forget about their sites. I have them linked to what we've heard a couple more, Treasure Vortex. And you know, you have a pretty good sized club, Mark, right? And you got to, you know, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to mention, I was just going to mention a couple of things. Of course, I'm part of the Central Florida Metal Detecting Club. We're one of the oldest and largest clubs in the United States. But aside from Uncharted Expedition, which I'm a team member on, I actually have my own Facebook group called Adventures in History. And it's not a big group. We got about 2,000 members. But it's not just metal detecting. There's a lot of historical stories, sports, history, the West. I mean, pirates, we got a guy that shares all kinds of pirate stories. This happened on this day. And he usually times it like, February 17th of, 1763, this happened. But we got some really cool stories. So if anybody's interested, it's called Adventures in History. We just invite people to come and join us and share their adventures, share their stories. And I don't have a YouTube channel. I don't have time. So definitely watch Matt's and Gypsy's channels. I got good stuff there, but I just manage that group.
And I guess with yours, Matt, is that your Gone Diggin? Is that your main?
Anything Gone Diggin. Put it in Google, and all of the things will appear.
Yep. Good stuff out there too. Like I said, and when at the beginning of the show, when I was talking about that in Gypsys, zero discrimination, but you got a couple things going on too, as well as like you mentioned with the Treasure Vortex. Is that pretty much the two main ones, or?
Those are the two main ones, Zero Discrimination and the Treasure Vortex. Got a new logo too. I'll be giving a bunch of this stuff. My website though is called gypsydigs.com.
Yep. And I'll add that. I'm going to add these other ones to the description of the show. So gypsydigs.com. That's really cool. I'll get that on there as well. Man, this has been an adventure. Thank you guys so very much. And I tell you, honestly, in the future, when you're out doing stuff, and if you have something, I know you got your own platforms to share that on, but it's always cool to have you come back on here, especially as a group, and kind of share these stories with us too. But like I said, going out and finding and watching these, folks, for you, if any of you are interested in metal detecting, treasure hunting, digging for bottles, whatever it may be, their videos that they have out there are fantastic. They really are. And you learn so much. I can't emphasize that enough, how much I have enjoyed it. And I haven't even got down to all of them yet. And you learn so much. It's a great way to find all that stuff and really learn about history as well, as the idea of going out and actually looking for some sort of a treasure. So check those out. And there's a lot of, somebody's mentioned about the Upper Peninsula history there, Vesta, and there's a lot there too, I know. But unfortunately, Michigan is one of those places where they really confine you on where you're allowed to metal detect, and that just, you would think Michigan, with so many hundreds of miles of beaches, they got one strip that's about a quarter mile long that you're allowed to metal detect on in the UP. That's it, of all of Michigan, that you don't have to go get a permit to metal detect. It's like, I don't know. I don't get it. But anyway, that's the way it is. So, all right. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it, folks, for being here with us tonight. Appreciate you showing up. Don't forget to click on that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up if you thought you liked the show, even just a little bit tonight. And if you'd like to help support the show, we've got our Patreon channel, JFree906, or you can jump in there like some of that swag that Gypsy's got. I got the J Free 906 travel mugs right here. You can pick up one of those. The links for it down below. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Folks, thank you again. Catch us next time right here on J Free 906 and the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, everyone.
Hang out just